Back from an episode of Down-in-the-Billies. I'm Mason, joined today by my co-host, Ethan Hauser.
Yes, sir.
All right, today we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories. More specifically, like creature conspiracy theories.
Yes.
So, have you been interested in any recently, Ethan?
Oh, yes. From when I was young, wow, that sounds really cheesy. But
a long time ago.
Growing up, I was really big into Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yep.
Always just like hearing about the stuff and seeing the stuff on like Animal Planet. I would watch that show called Finding Bigfoot.
Oh, dude, that's
so
how I used to watch.
That kind of spurred my love for that conspiracy theory.
Right. Bigfoot's a classic one, man. I mean, like you said, watching that show when you were younger was it on Animal Planet?
Yeah, Animal Planet.
On Animal Planet. Yeah, that's what I used to watch too. I would always remember like going on the internet and seeing like all those like fake pictures and everything of Bigfoot, and everybody would always be talking about it, and it's interesting how people just kind of like make these conspiracy theories, or where they get them from. I don't know, it's just Bigfoot was something that I like heard about a lot,
Yeah, growing up for sure. Heard about it a lot.
What do you think it's about, like conspiracy theories that make why do people believe in these?
I think it's just like I think what makes people like love them so much is just how different they are. Like, it's so out of world. Sometimes
Right.
you want to imagine something different than how things are today. Like, you always see stuff about like people or like superheroes, all these imaginary things that sound super cool that you kind of wish you had.
Right.
So I think just having just people think about that and be like, oh, that'd be crazy, just kind of spurs that.
Right, like it's kind of like fun to like imagine like something like otherworldly, or something that's not like we're familiar with. You know what I mean? Do you think there's like some truth behind it? Like specifically like Bigfoot, do you think like maybe someone saw something and they might have thought it was something else, Like kind of like how we had remember the whole like what was it called? Like the blobfish thing, And people like thought that was like some gigantic fish in the ocean. You know how like kind of like those things like kind of like spread up. I don't know if it was the blobfish, but do you remember that like that was a recording on a submarine, right? And it was later found out it was a iceberg that fell.
Yeah.
But someone thought it was like some gigantic fish, and you know what I'm
okay.
talking about?
Yeah, okay.
That kind of blew up for a while. So do you think like something like Bigfoot, for example, was somebody thought they saw something and maybe it wasn't that,
No, I definitely think it could be that, because there's been many cases and instances where that has been the case, especially in like California.
Right.
I did see a story about these guys going out like specifically on like a hunting expedition just to look for Bigfoot.
Right.
And then something really dumb spooked them, and and one of the hunters ended up shooting his buddy on accident.
Did he really?
Yeah, had to go to the hospital. And there's been other cases like that where just hunters accidentally get shot because they're wearing certain things that aren't necessarily what they should be wearing out when they're hunting. And so it definitely could be the case.
Right. Where do you think, like, I mean, there's pictures, people always, like, you see the classic Bigfoot pictures,
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? I mean, obviously, like, nowadays, like, people have been, like, creating hoax and everything because it kind of blew up, But the original pictures, I mean, were from, like, early 1900s. Do you think maybe it was, like, someone that just, like, was dressed up or something, or what I mean?
It definitely could be.
Or do you think there's like actually like something else out there that maybe we just don't know about?
It's really hard to tell. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a real thing, honestly, knowing how big and vast our universe is. But definitely going back in that time, it would be a lot harder for anyone to replicate or create a hoax for it. So if anything back then, I would feel like it'd be more real.
Right, because it wasn't Photoshop. Right?
Yeah, there's no such thing as Photoshop. There's no such thing as like these super advanced suits with this realistic fur and all that other stuff.
But I also think that like we as humans, we tend to like maybe see things and think there's something else, or like kind of like if we don't recognize something, maybe we'll like kind of imagine that it was like some other creature, like Bigfoot, for example. I mean, we've been doing that since like the beginning of time, like people used to like see like things in like the stars or whatever, and kind of make up like their own like creatures or like myths, you had like mythologies and all that coming from like beliefs that we'll later find out like weren't true or whatever.
Yeah,
or,
even just like different like Indian tribes. A lot of stuff originates from there. One of the big ones being like skinwalkers
or like the Wendigo. You know.
Yeah.
There was always like that big creature that they always, with like the horns and like the half like torn like body and all that and everything. They used to always think that they were in the woods, and then they had like a lot of like religious beliefs about that, and kind of like like rituals
evil.
and all that. And I feel like that's like we've been doing that since like the beginning of history.
Yeah.
And I feel like Bigfoot and some other conspiracy theories are kind of like that same case, where it's like we want to believe it's something else when it's probably just like not like an actual like different like creature or something,
Yeah.
I think it's just a part of like kind of like human like
nature
yeah. And so I personally don't believe in Bigfoot, but I know there's some people that do, and then I feel like some people maybe take it a little too far,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that can kind of like create problems. Do you think that conspiracy theories can be like dangerous in a way?
Yeah, they definitely can be dangerous, especially if you're, like I said, some people are like literally obsessed with them.
Right.
Just going back to those, instance of hunting, people actually getting shot, or just, going out in the wilderness saying that, oh, I'm going to look for, this and this and this, and then they end up getting lost in the forest, can't find the way back, and then something happens, right?
Right.
They go missing. So really, just what you see, you just kind of have to take with a grain of salt, and just kind of really have to differentiate, like, okay, what is maybe they're faking here, joshing, and then what maybe could be real. But it's like,
yeah,
it's really strange. It's really strange.
I mean, like, it's always fun to speculate that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like,
it's fun.
You always have, like, when you hang out with friends or, like, whatever, people always, like, bring up conspiracy theories, or, like, with family, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun to be like, oh, what if that, like, it actually existed,
Mm-hmm.
But to the point where people will start going on, like, hunts, and then they'll start, like, obsessing over it, I think that's when it kind of, create problems or whatever.
Dangerous.
Yeah, like, I mean, people like, and then with that too, you get a bunch of hoax, a bunch of like
hoax,
people that will try to fake stuff just for like attention and money, and then that kind of makes like, I don't know, like they take it too far, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely see that as kind of like a dangerous aspect about it, but I think it's also fun to like speculate about other like worldly creatures or whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with questioning what is, in this life and what isn't. So.
Right. I mean, that's literally like human nature to question like everything, I mean, there's plenty of other conspiracy theories specifically like against like the government and all that. And a lot of them are, dumb or whatever, but I'm sure there's a couple of them that are maybe true,
yeah,
in some way. But there's just so many like fake ones out there,
It
it's
just
like
distorts,
it's a little like too much to like imagine like what's real and what's not and everything. But like like we said before, it's human nature to kind of question like everything around us and our own reality. So I think like that's just kind of what we do as people,
No, yeah, I totally agree.
So yeah, so there there's Bigfoot, and then the other big one, which is kind of like the classic, I feel like, monster conspiracy theory, was Loch Ness Monster.
Yep, Loch Ness Monster.
Also known as Nessie. That one, I think it was the first pictures. There's actually a picture, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally one of the most iconic like conspiracy theory like pictures out there, where it's like that little head popping out of the water.
Yep.
I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it could be something, or maybe it's just like a whale or something?
The photo, I definitely think is fake. I would totally say that.
Now, keep in mind, though, this photo was from early 1900s. So, they didn't quite have Photoshop or anything like that. So,
but the possibility of it being real, I would say, is totally. I mean, all of those prehistoric dinosaurs we used to have that swam in the ocean a long time ago, some could have survived. I mean, it's true that we have not, as humans, explored the entire ocean. That we haven't seen everything, so there's definitely that possibility, because there are some depths that we just can't reach.
I can't remember the statistic, but over 90% of it's unexplored,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like deep parts of the ocean that, I mean, we have satellites, so a lot of like places on land we've obviously like seen, and actually physically been on. But there's I mean, there's islands we haven't set foot on, and there's plenty of parts of the ocean, especially like deep down, because we can't reach a lot of those parts because of, the pressure and all that.
Yeah.
That we've just never ever seen before, and we can't get cameras down there or anything. So the possibility of there being some other like sea creature that's unidentified, I mean, yeah, there's a good chance that there could be something down there, but
is it as big as what we're talking about here, though?
I don't think so.
Exactly.
I would be really surprised. I mean, I feel like the only thing that we would like, if something that big was around, I feel like we would see it by now,
Yeah.
Especially because in the picture, it's above, the head is sticking above the surface. So, like, I feel like we'd have some other sight of it, you know what I mean? I think either it was some, like, maybe a whale or something, it stuck out like whatever, like its fin, and maybe like it kind of like the camera caught it wrong, you know, or some kind of like equipment out there or whatever.
Maybe like big piece of wood. Driftwood. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I was watching a documentary and they were kind of going over that, and they were like exploring like the different like possibilities of what it could be, because they've always been trying to like disprove like these conspiracy theories for a while now. It was interesting because they said that during, I think, 1920s, don't quote me on the year on this, but there was someone who reported a sea creature that was unidentified that washed up on a beach. And it was like decaying and everything because it was dead. Yeah. And it looked like prehistoric. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that might be what they saw in that picture, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's actually documented that they took like the head and then they took the body and they actually like put it in a museum
and tested it. Yeah.
And tested it and everything. So that's actually like proven to be true, but they never identified the creature.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be something like that where, I mean, there could be something out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like as big as we think it is, but that's kind of thing with conspiracy theories is people tend to like blow it up.
Yeah, that's what I think too. You see all these sightings, so-called sightings, and there's so many. So it's like, okay, well, if this thing is real, right? All these sightings make sense, but wouldn't there be more than just sightings, right? There should be more. I feel
especially
like,
in today's day and age when everybody's recording something.
Yeah, you have a camera, you have all this media. You should be more likely to catch it, I feel like.
Right. I think it's just weird, 100 years later, more than 100 years after we've seen the original picture of quote unquote Loch Ness Monster, we haven't seen anything even remotely similar,
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of just like proves that like it's not really an actual thing. But I think it's interesting when we talk about the ocean because there's so much down there that we just don't know about. Some people speculate that there's still megalodons around.
Yep, megalodon, kraken.
I'd be surprised if there was a megalodon, but megalodon. Especially not a kraken. I don't believe like anything like crazy like that. But still, like, it's just interesting what people kind of come up with.
I think the closest thing really that we have to like some sort of that stuff is like the giant squid, like that.
Right. I mean, some of those deep sea creatures, bro, they're like some like crazy,
creepy,
they're creepy. But I think like if there is anything down there, I guarantee it's like some smaller fish or bacteria or something we haven't actually like, that's something that's not big or whatever. I can't imagine like a megalodon just being down in the ocean, just
surviving off. Yeah. Like what is it? Yeah.
Like we're so like I said before, with cameras and everything and social media, we would have seen something by now.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in any like thing down there like that is actually real. But yeah, that's just my personal beliefs. Mm-hmm. So here's the big question: do you believe there's UFOs out there?
I definitely. I think there is something else other than than just us humans in this universe. Whether that be aliens, I don't know. Whether that be UFOs, I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of things that I think could definitely be a UFO and be considered that, but maybe not extraterrestrial.
So that's a good point. Kind of going back to that question, here's my personal belief. I know a lot of people say like there's a pretty good chance there's other life out there, but I think we are alone. Yeah, I think so personally. And I mean, part of the reason is like religious backgrounds and everything I come from, you know, so like that kind of, I guess, conflicts with that. But I think like we would have seen something by now, some kind of radio wave, some kind of signal, you know. It just really surprises me that we haven't like been reached out to, you know. And I think the reason why we want to believe there's UFOs like so badly is because it's like it's human nature to not want to be alone. Yeah. So the thought of being in this like entire universe that's like just billions of light years wide and just us, that's scary, you know. And I think people like are afraid of that. So we kind of want to like have this idea in our head that there's like some other being or species like far out there, you know, that are just like us. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on that?
Just like now, just thinking about what you just said, like from like a Christian like religious background, I think like that's insane. This like, you know, that is, I think, beautiful in sort of a way, because like if, you know, God did do all this just for us,
we have a whole universe,
just the whole universe. It's amazing. It's literally incomprehensible. It really is. You just can't. And it's just, it really shows that love that God has for his people.
Right.
So, I mean, coming from that standpoint, really, there's not much to, there wouldn't be anything outside of us.
Right.
There wouldn't be.
I feel like we would have known by now or something.
Yeah, and there should be. I feel like we should have definitely saw something more than just like a fast flying object, you know.
Right. And you know, like I said before, we're a very like social species, and obviously like we hate being alone, you know. So like being alone in that like just vast universe, it's terrifying, you know.
Yeah.
There's like the thought of being nothing out there, like I think it's incomprehensible to us. But I don't know, a lot of people like have this idea that there's other life out there, but I think there's just as good a chance of there being nothing else out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they say they found other planets that are potentially like our planet, but I don't know, man.
And then like people talk about, right, like the government, like, oh, the government's hiding this and that. And it's like, well, okay, let's just say the government's hiding all this up. It'd be so hard for the government to hide all of it, just because like people are having these sightings all the time. There's all these, you know, like I said, conspiracies, things people see, don't see, find, whatever. It's like there's no way I think the government could be able to round all of that up as quickly as
something would have came out by it. I mean,
yeah, something at least.
You're seeing now of all the UFO like reportings now, and just to clarify, UFO does not mean alien, you know. UFO just means unidentified flying object. So it could be some other satellite or plane from a different country that we don't know about. That's a UFO. And now, obviously, the government came out and said, yeah, UFOs do exist. But I feel like that's something they would have wanted to keep secret.
It was more alien-like.
Right. Or, well, in general, they don't want to tell our citizens that there's, like, countries have, like, planes in our country. You know? That's something they want to keep secret. But obviously, nowadays it's hard to keep something secret, like you're saying, and that finally came out, and it's now like to the public. So I think something like an extraterrestrial like would be almost impossible for the government to keep like sealed forever. Someone would have said something. Someone would have leaked something, you know.
Especially if they're saying, or people, I know a lot of people consider like aliens to be so much smarter than us, right? Well, it's like, dude, if they're so much smarter, they should be able to find ways to communicate us without the government interfering, right?
Or they would have like took us over or something. You know? And I think there's just as much of a chance that they could be not smarter than us, you know. I mean, we always think they are because they're otherworldly, so they got to be more intelligent. But what if they're more like from like movies, like, you know, have you seen Aliens before? Yeah. You know how they're like very primal creatures, almost like animals. What if they're like that? You know? Yeah, they're. Like, there's nothing like that like proves that they're like some smart, intelligent creature, you know, if they even were real.
I think just Hollywood and the media just really blew it up to proportion to kind of bank off it and make money from the whole idea of intelligent alien, different beings, weapons, all of that stuff.
When we think of aliens, we always think the classic green, tall, slender, you know, alien that like flies in like these flying saucers, you know. But I think realistically, if there was ever like an actual alien out there, it would not look anything like that. And probably be some like more like some more animalistic, because I just can't believe if they had a technology they wouldn't reach out or attempt some sort of communication with another species, you know. or you would have seen something on a satellite or whatever.
Yeah.
But let's say for instance there was some kind of conspiracy monster that was real,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Bigfoot, UFOs, whatever. Do you think it's better for us to be ignorant about it or for us to know about it as like a whole like species, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I think it'd be better for us to know about it.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, obviously it'd be scary, and some people may react in a harsh way to it, but I mean, at least if we know about it, we would be more prepared for if anything does happen or come out of that.
I can agree with that, but I also disagree because I think having the general public know about something as big as another alien species, I think that creates panic and fear because of uncertainty, you know? People are going to start being like, well, what if they like invade us or whatever, you know? And that fear of the unknown like makes us like do irrational irrational things, you know? So people might start preparing for like a war or whatever. So that's why I believe that's something that's better to be kept to like a top government agency.
It's have to be careful with it.
Yeah. Sometimes I think ignorance is bliss when it comes to stuff like that.
It can be, yes, it can be.
You know, I think it's dangerous because if everybody knows about it, like I said, people are going to kind of like, they might want to go to war or something, you know, or whatever. I mean, that's literally human history when we, like, if we don't know things, like we will be irrational and we will try to like take it out or eliminate it, you know, like when we came to America and everything, and you know, like they kind of just like killed all like the Indians and all that, you know, and because they were afraid of what they could do, you know. So I think something like that could create a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But like something like a Bigfoot or a Loch Ness monster, I don't think that would be like problematic to like know about that, you know.
Yeah, so maybe it depends on what we're talking about here, how big of this sort of creature or thing this is. Right.
Because I mean, obviously our government keeps stuff from the public all the time.
Oh yeah,
you know?
for sure.
I mean, there's a lot of foreign affairs that they don't tell us about, and you know, I get people like maybe frustrated about that. At the same time, though, I do understand why you would want to keep like that like hidden. Yeah. You know, because like it creates fear, and fear creates panic. You know, and those two things together don't go well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Obviously, like it's annoying to like not know about everything the government's up to, but I think for our safety, sometimes we don't have to know. Yeah. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I would agree. I know fear and panic would not go together, and I know it could cause a lot of problems, destruction, whatever. So I agree with what you're saying. It's really hard to give you a definite like answer because both are good.
I see both aspects of
in certain ways they're both good. So
of how it could be bad and good, you know?
Yeah, so it just has pros and cons. I guess you kind of have to weigh like, okay, which one has more pros and cons? Which one's maybe slightly better than the other? And I think it'd be probably yours keeping it, you know, on the down low. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it'd be bad for us, but I mean, that's my opinion. I know a lot of these like crazy conspiracy theories people like will be like, man, you know, the government's keeping so much from us, you know, how could they do this? But at the same time, I kind of understand the other side of it, of where it could be bad for people, you know? Yeah. And like I said, some people take conspiracy theories too far and they'll start like believing in them and they'll start like doing irrational things to kind of like, you know, prepare for them or whatever. You know, you always see like the doomsday people, you know, and
doomsday.
It's just people can take that information and they'll stretch it or whatever, you know, take it too far. I'm trying to think what I was gonna say, but yeah, I mean that's just how I feel about that.
What do you think are some other stuff that would maybe cause some other things outside of like those really well known like Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, aliens that would maybe be like potentially alarming, or maybe somewhat realistic that could possibly happen?
Some like realistic things?
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think like the whole megalodon theory or conspiracy theory, I think that has some scientific possibility. Or also some people like to speculate like dinosaurs could still be around on some other island. I find those more realistic.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in a whole lot of conspiracy theory. I don't really believe in any conspiracy theories, to be honest, because they're just so speculative, and there's so many out there. It's like, how do you believe?